What are some of the solutions, or how can you help someone who's dealing with this holiday season again?
Yeah.
And they're really thinking about the relationships or the lack of relationships during this time of year, and that's having a negative mental effect on them.
First, I would like to say that if you are someone that has experienced a recent loss, or you're grieving a loved one, or there is someone in your life that is ill or dealing with some kind of challenge, and you care for them, or you have some strained relationships, that my heart automatically goes out to you, and I empathize with that, because I know that's a part of the human struggle and the human condition, is that we have, these kind of things that happen that are just not fun. But I also want to say that do not neglect feeling the emotion. I think what we do a lot of times is we try to drown out the feeling. And I speak from a place of knowing people in my life personally that, may lean this way. And we try to do things. We turn to alcohol. We turn to substances. We turn to porn.
We try to mask it.
We try to mask it with these maladaptive coping skills. And that is not addressing the emotion. That is trying to escape it and try to cover it up and go into something else. So I would definitely say address the emotion that you feel, and feel it, because it needs to pass through you. I know that may sound weird, but you need to allow the emotion to come through the body. You need to feel that. So if you need to cry about that, cry. If you need to go to a rage room and, knock some stuff and break some stuff, do that. If you need to go to a boxing class and just go punch it out on a punching bag, feel those emotions. Do those things that are necessary to get that emotional energy out of the body. Don't ignore it and try to cover it up with maladaptive coping skills. The other piece is when it comes to advocacy, self-advocacy, this is what makes boundaries important, okay? If you are saying, I need to advocate for myself what I need, first of all, being very clear about what my expectations are. What is it that I'm able to handle? What is my bandwidth? Do I have the capacity to deal with X, Y, and Z? Or so-and-so this holiday, right? What is my bandwidth? And are there any lingering conversations that have not been had that need to be had before we get to the holiday, before we get to the family table?
Yeah.
Can we lean
Deal
into
with it in advance,
can we
right?
lean into confrontation in a healthy manner? We don't have to be, cussing and fighting and, calling the police and all that kind of stuff, but we definitely need to say, I need to have a conversation with this person. I need to sit down and just kind of set up some boundaries or some expectations of how we get through the holiday season together. That's very important. If you are struggling with that, about how to communicate those boundaries, you're feeling timid or you're feeling afraid of like what's going to happen as a result of doing that, it sounds like you might be more concerned with their response, like how the other person is going to respond to what I need to say or what I need to do for myself, versus advocating for what I need. And so asking yourself, am I worth what I'm advocating for?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Am I worth it? And is this worth it to go through this? And if it is, if you say yes to that, then you have to follow through. And that's where a mental health professional might be helpful. If you can't get to a mental health professional or you don't feel comfortable doing that, there are tons of resources. One of my favorite personal resources is a book, and it's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace.
Okay.
Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And the author's name is Nidra Tawwab. So that's Nedra, I believe it's Tawwab, Nidra Tawwab. And
Spell the last name again?
Tawwab. I believe that's how you spell it and pronounce it. But Set Boundaries, Find Peace, and how to have relational wholeness for yourself, basically reclaiming your peace. And that is just year round. But I think what I love about her book is that it's so practical. When we think about books, a lot of time we think about a story from beginning to end, or like when we think of even informational writing, there's a thesis and all this stuff to kind of, I guess you could say, support that thesis. But her book is practical in the sense of it has those kinds of elements to it. There are stories, and she is making a case for certain things when it relates to boundaries. But she has like these literally like line by line. These are things you can say in a context with setting a boundary with your spouse, setting a boundary with your niece, or, setting a boundary with the employer. And they're like line for line words, phrases, ways that you can kind of conceptualize things you need to say and how to articulate that. And if that doesn't help, I also feel that in addition to that book, you can write things down, or also talk it out on your phone. Like, do a voice memo, like talk it out, get the finer points, make sure that the communication is very concise, and don't assume that the people are going to understand if you don't explain it to them. Like, assume they don't know and over communicate. But yeah, do a voice memo to yourself, or journal, or write out your thoughts to kind of conceptualize how you want to explain it. And then just also knowing for your own personal mission and vision for your life, what are my core values? What do I hold dear? What matters to me? What I'm looking forward to advocating for. And then you teach people in your sphere of influence how they can get with the program.
Yeah.
Basically.
So it's really interesting what you're doing, man. I like what you're doing because you're talking about different levels of resource. So one is talking to a professional, which is that's number one. I do that in my industry where someone's talking about, hey, I need to get a will done. Can I go online and download some things? It's like, yeah, you can do that, but go to a professional, go to an attorney, go to a counselor. There's value in that. And whether it's part of your employee assistance program, or it's part of your medical benefit, or if you don't have a benefit and you don't have the cash to pay for it for a counselor, that's important. You should have enough money to pay $30 for a book, right?
Right.
So set boundaries, find peace.
And it's holiday time, so I'm sure it's discounted.
Gift, right?
Right.
There's a lot of books out there that are available, even free ebooks or whatever.
Right.
But that's a good book recommendation. But then the other thing you mentioned is journaling, right? Journaling and writing your thoughts down, or voice memoing, that's great. When you were talking about emotion and feeling that emotion, it's really interesting because my counselor was telling me that I need to keep an emotion journal, right?
Yeah.
Because I tend to say, it doesn't matter what you feel, just get it done, right?
Right. No.
But to your point, emotion is motion.
It exactly in the word. Yeah.
And the problem usually comes from either suppressing emotions.
Correct.
Or I would say, you know how you have a water hose and all of a sudden you clamp it, you got this pressure building up. So it could be, if you're feeling a lot of tension.
Correct.
It could be because you're holding on to some emotion and you're not like allowing yourself to feel it and get through you.
It has to.
That's what I was thinking about when you're talking about emotion, is like, feel it, let it come.
Let it come out.
Don't suppress it. And my daughter is like, she's such a blessing. She's given me so many different clues to how to deal with my emotions. And in another book is The Lost Art of Listening.
Ooh.
Which is have you read that book?
I've not read it, but it sounds
That's a powerful
great.
book. It's like, it's listening without judgment.
Yeah.
And that is a gift to give somebody that is overlooked and doesn't cost much, besides just you doing the work of being more concerned about what that person is feeling,
right,
what that person is saying, instead of what you want to say.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. I mean, I love how you explained it, especially the water hose and like having it clamped down so tight that you're just not allowing it to come out, because that's exactly what I mean when we talk about allowing it to come through. I think we have had this mind-body disconnect that we're so focused, and some of it is cultural messaging that we've got in our culture. And then as Black and brown people, I know that we have, spiritual language for a lot of these kinds of things, and just pray about it and all that kind of stuff. But the misnomer is that we weren't supposed to feel them in the first place. Like that's not true. Right. I think we were created with this capacity for emotional intelligence, that we should utilize it. That's what separates us from every other animal. Right, everything in creation, like we have this capacity to feel intently. We're sentient beings, like other creatures do have feeling, but it's heightened. Like it's more, it's elevated, I would say. And so feel that, experience that, go with that. It's trying to tell you something.
Yeah,
it's trying to tell you something. It's there for a reason. If it wasn't there for a reason, then you wouldn't feel it.